Hmm. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me okay? Hello. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me okay? Oh, let me turn that down. Getting stuff done today. Hello, Brandywine. Getting stuff done today, boxing up and storing summer, ready for fall. Exactly. So is Labor Day, is that kind of your official ending to summer? Happy Labor Day, Elbow. So good to see you. And hello. These YouTube streets, boy, have ya. The YouTube streets, they tend to cause a lot of drama. That's for sure. So I found a case. There seems to be a lot. I wasn't able to play the one out of Johnson City, um, where a man they believe was thrown in. I was thrown in a well, and the family was very, very um, wealthy. Of the guy who they believe did it, they had two juries. They were both hung, but I did find another one in Oklahoma too. I will be enjoying that bus Thursday. They are detailing it, and just see, he's detailing it. They got to get their stuff out of the bus. So that's exciting. Very excited for that. I can have my life back. I can start traveling again. That's for sure. So I'm going to play this video while we wait for some people to come in. This was not scheduled. I got some time. Fixing to leave town again. Going to head to Oklahoma City. And then from Oklahoma City to Arkansas. I wish I had the bus right now, that's for sure. Hmm. They found. Are you talking about the one in Johnson County? No, because I didn't see where they found an ID in the well, but it does bring a little light to how everybody was saying that the Kansas moms could have been dropped in a well. I go back to that case of Johnson City, which is only like 45 minutes from Elkhart. And no one was ever charged. Like I said, it was a hung jury twice. I found another one. It's on a nurse. You're chirping pretty loud, Rock. Like chirping. Like what's chirping? I'm not sure what's chirping. Is it still chirping? Hmm. Is it still chirping, Elbow? Okay, yeah, it's the Johnson City one. I don't see anything above that would be making it chirp. Let me see if I can. I don't understand why it's chirping. That's weird. I want to make sure the audio's good. Scooch. Oh, it's still loud, huh? Don't have any YouTube open that would cause it to chirp. I'm gonna watch in the chat. If it's still chirping, I'll go to see if I can fix something else because I don't understand why it'd be chirping. Because I don't have anything else on. Fireplace says she hears me fine. I don't want to hear it. I don't want you guys to hear a loud bitch. Well, let's see if this will let me play it. But this was interesting to me. Okay. Yeah, we're not gonna be on long. I've got one scheduled for Wednesday.
A beautiful nurse.
Hopefully, I'll be able to do that one Wednesday. That's Rick's birthday, and hopefully, I'll be back from Arkansas by then. Yeah, the Michael Golub case is heartbreaking. Yeah, this is a nurse. This happened to come across it. It was interesting to me. So we'll see how you guys. Dang, have I lost it? I swear, I've lost it. Gosh, I've missed you guys. It's been a while. Congressman Lucas was in Texas, Cimarron, and 3 other counties. Good. Maybe when the mods called around, it made him get out to look. I don't know. The mods did a really good job of calling around. Yes, Elbow, you're a managing mod too. So glad to have you back. Much love to you. Glad everybody's here. Let's try to play this video. I showed you it was playing, but then when I looked up, it wasn't playing. So I don't know why, but it don't seem like you guys are able to see the screen. I'm gonna try it again. Did I already forget how to do stuff? What's going on here? Share the screen. It's Peggy McGuire. Yes, justice all the way. I should be back. Am I back? I should be back. Also, I shared it, but it seems to be really interesting. It's good to hear from you too, Rebecca. Yeah, some networks don't play. This is where I found it on True Crime News. And I shared it in the chat, but we're going to look here again. I'm going to try to find another one, because I'm sure that's probably not the only one. Give me just a minute. We won't use theirs. Okay. I found some different ones. We'll see if we can share them. Yeah, pretty girl. I'm back. Yes, I'm back. Anyway, it's one to watch. It talks about how the ex, the baby daddy, was seen driving a tractor with a bucket on it. They believe her body was in that bucket and that she was buried somewhere. So it kind of makes you wonder if in Oklahoma they just bury people or drop them in wells. I don't know. Just saw a movie. It Ends With Us. Interesting. I don't watch a lot of movies anymore, but I'm fixing to start. And listen, if they strike my page, it'd be my first strike. I mean, I'm not had any against me, but let me see if I can find a little different stuff for you on this one, because I found this one interesting. Obviously, we can't watch this one because they striked it. But this one says 3 years ago. Let's see what this one says.
At 5:20 a.m.
Let me make sure that it is sharing with you. Okay, it is. So let's play this one first, and we'll just go down the list and see what we can play.
The morning after Peggy McGuire disappeared, surveillance cameras here at this bar captured her truck being driven up this road, pull in this driveway, and is left right here in the parking lot. Peggy's family doesn't believe she's the shadowy figure seen walking away from the truck in a storm. In the midst of a fierce early morning storm, Peggy McGuire's Toyota Tundra pulls into the parking lot of T&J's Ice House. This is nearly a day after she dropped her 8-year-old son off at school on Monday morning and had a phone conversation with her stepfather on the way home.
I called her all the way up to late. I just was restless. I couldn't sleep and I was calling her.
Betty Davis knew something was wrong when she couldn't reach her daughter Peggy last Monday evening. The 27-year-old nurse talks with her family constantly, and she's never been away from her 8-year-old son Ethan for very long. As small groups of family and friends search for any sign of Peggy, her mother says she's losing hope that her daughter will be found safe.
I'm at the point I know that I'll probably never see her again. I feel that I'll probably never see my daughter ever again. And I just want to bring her home, put her to peace.
Peggy's family and friends have logged over 300 miles on quads, searching for clues. The McIntosh County Sheriff says his department considers Peggy missing and endangered, but he says deputies haven't mounted a search of their own because they don't have a suspect or a crime scene that would tell them where to start.
We're just really frustrated because, She's out there. She's missing. It's going on day.
Did they just say that they hadn't mounted a search on their own? Like, why is that? Let's play that one more time. You would think it would be up to law enforcement to do the searches. I find that weird. Seems familiar as far as not setting up a command post and not doing searches. Is this what happened in Texas County too? I'm confused.
Their own because they don't have a suspect or a crime scene.
Okay, hold on.
The McIntosh County Sheriff says his department considers Peggy missing and endangered, but he says deputies haven't mounted a search of their own because they don't have a suspect or a crime scene that would tell them where to start.
We're just really frustrated because, you know, she's out there, she's missing. It's going on day 7, you know, and this is so out of character for her to, you know, be away from her son. Her son was her life.
Peggy's family is asking local businesses to check their surveillance cameras from last Monday and Tuesday to see if you may have captured an image of Peggy's truck. It's a unique silver Toyota Tundra, and it says Southern Belle across the front windshield. If you have any information, please contact the McIntosh County Sheriff's Department. Reporting from McIntosh County, Casey Roebuck, 2 Works for You.
See if there is more. I'm having a great day. Had a nice few days off. Some people screenshotted stuff. I just got back today and I'm looking at it, but like, I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm not out here to hurt anybody. That's for sure. And I'm not out here to try to put down family members either. I mean, either you want the truth of everything involved in the case or you don't. That's basically what it amounts to. Okay, let's try this one. I think it's better. Oh, no, Elbow. That's what I'm saying. Like in Veronica and Julian's case, there was no cameras. Like the school didn't even have cameras. But in this one, there was cameras. Let's go to the next one and see. I just see a pattern in Oklahoma, and I'm just trying to figure it out.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to be discussing the disappearance of Peggy McGuire. Now, this case reminds me a lot, at least the circumstances of last week's case when I discussed the disappearance of Susan Osborne and Evan Chartrand. So let's just jump right on into the details. So Peggy was 28 years old when she went missing on November 16th, 2015 from Eufaula, Oklahoma. Peggy was your typical country girl through and through. She loved fishing. She loved hunting. She loved camping. She had her own herd of goats. She had about 150 cattle. That was just the lifestyle that she was drawn to and she loved. She was known as being one of the most kind-hearted people. She was a social butterfly. She was beautiful, and she also was a dedicated mother to her son named Ethan. But her history was pretty rocky, and this is where a lot of he said, she said information kind of starts coming up, and it makes it very, very difficult in this case. So early on in high school, Peggy fell head over heels for a guy named Thomas McIntosh, but those around her were honestly a little bit shocked at her decision to date him. She, as I said, was very bubbly. She was beautiful. She was outgoing. She wanted to be friends with everyone and talk to everyone, go to all the events. And Thomas was kind of the opposite. He was this big old country boy, and which is probably the reason why she loved him. But he was not social at all. He was actually not just known as being antisocial, he was thought of as a very rude person. I guess he did not have many kind encounters with people while in high school. He was described as very awkward, and no one could really see what she saw in him. So it kind of shocked everyone. And because he had this weird, rude, aggressive nature to him, a lot of people worried for his safety, and they weren't wrong. Peggy would speak to other guys, and not necessarily in a flirty way. She just had a lot of friends. She was outgoing. So she would speak to these different guys and, hang out with her different guy friends she had known forever. They all grew up together. And this would infuriate Thomas. I mean, she could barely even speak to a guy platonically for a minute without Thomas showing some anger towards it. It got to the point where every time she ever reached out to someone else, he would smash her car windows. He would show up, I'm pretty sure, to her house and bust her doors down. He was very, very aggressive and very violent, but unfortunately, letting his anger out on these inanimate objects pretty quickly turned into him letting his anger out on Peggy herself. One day, Peggy and Thomas went off to lunch, and when she got back, her friend noticed that she had a bloody nose. Now, this is her best friend, Elizabeth. And Peggy went to Elizabeth and said, I need you to take me to the hospital, but she wouldn't really tell Elizabeth what happened. I don't know if Elizabeth suspected that it was Thomas, but she went to the ER to get it checked out. She was pretty sure she had a broken nose. It wasn't until after they left the hospital that Peggy finally was able to tell Elizabeth what happened, and what happened makes my freaking stomach turn. When Peggy and Thomas had gone out for lunch, he got mad at her for some unknown reason and took his anger to the next level, and he actually pulled out his pistol and he pistol whipped her in the face and likely broke her nose. Now, unfortunately, the abuse just continued, and I know a lot of people at this point, because I receive comments like this all the time, are wondering, why didn't Peggy get out? Why didn't Peggy leave? Abuse is not that simple. When you are a victim of abuse, you feel trapped in it. There is manipulation going on. You feel like you will be made to be the bad person if you leave. You are often scared of what that person will do if you leave physically to you, if they are physically abusive. It's a bad cycle. It is almost impossible to break it. And a lot of the times it takes a third party to have it successfully end. It's not as easy as Peggy just leaving. It's not like she probably didn't realize this was wrong. It's just, if you've never been in an abusive situation, it's a feeling I hope you never have to experience, and don't judge someone else for their actions within that relationship. So, over the next few years, there were multiple different scenarios where Thomas was aggressive towards Peggy, whether it was to her directly or, again, things like smashing windows, random outbursts of violence, and they kept splitting up and getting back together, likely because she would try to escape and then she would feel bad. He would make her feel guilty. So she would always end up going back with him. But then at one point, Peggy ended up actually taking out a protective order against Thomas. it was to keep herself safe. She was tired of the abuse. She was tired of the manipulation, and everyone really was hoping this would be it. But unfortunately, Peggy went right back to Thomas. Soon after this last incident where she went back, she fell pregnant. This makes any situation a little bit more complicated, but when you are in an abusive situation and a manipulative situation, that is one huge thing that can be held over your head. And unfortunately, that's exactly probably what happened with Peggy. They went on to have a baby boy named Ethan, and Ethan was Peggy's entire world. Despite the fact that her relationship with Thomas was very turbulent, she tried really hard to give Ethan as best a life as possible. That ended up being her main goal through everything and her focus when things in her relationship just weren't going well. She took the best care of him. She was known to be, one of the most dedicated and amazing mothers. It had her reach out and do other things for youth in the community. She became a youth basketball coach. And at this point, she was determined to make sure that Ethan had a stable family. And she truly believed that she could turn Thomas around, that Thomas could be better, could do better for them. So when Thomas decided to take a job in Indiana, Peggy and Ethan went with him. And they were hoping a fresh start would hopefully save their relationship, that a fresh start was pretty much all they needed. But unfortunately, Peggy was quickly shown that
So many times people get fooled and think having a child is going to change the abusive relationship and make it better. Sometimes it lasts 2 weeks and things are great, and then you're right back to where it was. Getting out of these kind of relationships are very, very hard.
that wasn't going to happen. Thomas was going to remain acting the way he had always acted, and no matter what she did, a child in the picture, changing states, changing herself, he wasn't going to change. This is kind of when the relationship hit its absolute worst. His aggression hit its absolute worst. Shortly after moving, Thomas strangled Peggy. And as bad as that is in itself, it gets worse because he strangled Peggy in front of Ethan. That was the last straw for Peggy because she had taken a lot before Ethan. She had dealt with a lot. But I think this is when she realized that Ethan could be affected too. Her safety wasn't the only safety she needed to worry about anymore. If he was escalating what he was doing to her, there's no telling what he might have done to Ethan or would go on to do to Ethan in the future. So this time she decided to press charges against Thomas. So not just getting a protective order, she went and pressed charges against him for this domestic dispute. And she left. She went back home. She took Ethan with her and she stayed with her mom. Now this time everyone was sure this is going to be it. This isn't going to be like any of the other times. I mean, for heaven's sake, she was literally strangled by him in front of her son. But manipulation is manipulation, and she ended up back. Now, from what I've seen, the reason that she went back was for Ethan. She thought that it wasn't fair to Ethan to not be around his father, to not have a family setting where his mother and father were both there. And Thomas pretty much was saying the same thing. And I think it was likely his trick to get her back. He kept saying, it's not fair to Ethan. What is Ethan going to do without a father? You've taken my son away from me. He's not going to grow up, right or healthy. And this made her feel guilty, which if you know anything about abuse and manipulation, that's going to be the first thing. And why not use it on the one person that she cared about the most, her son? So Thomas and Peggy got back together and they moved back,
I agree, Elbow. Sometimes
Someone was detected at your driveway.
the one that's being abused feels like they can change the person. Or you deep down think that they will change. Again, they might change for a couple weeks, but the old habits come back. It's crazy. And then Nana, you must know this case very well. Is that what I'm assuming? Is this in your area? Because you're saying Ethan is now 17, has run away from home and dad multiple times since 2021. Listen, I can't imagine growing up knowing my mom is missing. They never found her body. But same thing with Kansas mom's case. What about all the kids involved in this? How's it going to affect them later on in life? Because it is going to affect them. Hopefully, they continue to have good people around them, and man, I just pray for all of them that they have a good life and can overcome these hurdles that they got going on. It's a lot of hurdles that's going to be happening. Hey, Patroness Glow.
I'm not mistaken, to Oklahoma. They were living in a house together. But what I've seen is that Peggy said it was strictly platonic. She was going to stay in the house. They were going to be a family for Ethan, but she was no longer involved romantically with Thomas. And she was actually planning in the background to get the heck out of there. Her new plan at this point was to be stable. And probably a huge part of the reason why she went back to stay with Thomas is because she didn't have a career. I am unsure if she even had a job at this point. So she wouldn't have been able to successfully take care of Ethan on her own. So she was going to ride it out at Thomas's house, stay with him, and she was going to start her career. She was basically starting this path with the end goal of getting the heck away from Thomas. So she started going to school for nursing, and she passed her board exams in June of 2015 and ended up being immediately hired at Wellington Hills Nurse Center. So she was doing great. Things seemed to be looking up. She felt more secure within herself. She felt more secure for Ethan. And she even decided at this point to start seeing other men. So it was finally time to start putting her plan into motion of getting out. So her plan was to go to her mom's apartment over a weekend, to take Ethan, completely leave Thomas's house. She was going to safely stay at her mom's and then go over the weekend and start taking all of her belongings. But unfortunately, Peggy disappeared before any of that could ever happen. Monday, the 16th of November. So I don't know if it was that next weekend she was supposed to be moving out or a couple weekends in the future. Either way, that Monday, Peggy finished up. So she had worked pretty much all day, all night, and got off that morning. And the first thing she had to do was take Ethan to school. So she went back by her house. Thomas was there watching Ethan. She picked Ethan up and took him to school to drop him off. Now, after dropping Ethan off, we know that she called her stepdad. Her stepdad and her had a typical conversation. She was actually supposed to go home, measure the back deck, and call her stepdad back to give him dimensions so that they could, I guess, create a new deck. So we know she was safe at this point in time, and her plan was to head home. But Peggy never called him back. That night, she also never showed up for her niece's ball game, which was something she usually always went to. Through the next day, every single person that attempted to get into contact with Peggy got sent straight to voicemail. Nobody thought to question it at first. They're thinking, she's a busy mom, she's a working mom, she's probably trying to figure out her stuff. She just graduated, she's got a new job. But her friend Elizabeth knew another reason why she might not have been answering her phone. Peggy told Elizabeth that she had been speaking with a man named Richard from Texas, and this man was supposed to come up from Texas to visit her that Tuesday. So she told Elizabeth, I'm not working that day and don't call my phone because we're spending the day together. And she was really, really looking forward to it. So Elizabeth is thinking, oh, everyone's freaking out, but really, she just has this secret. But all of Tuesday passed, and even by the end of the day, nobody could get in contact with Peggy, and even Elizabeth started to get worried. So she started frantically texting and calling Peggy and saying, everyone's freaking out. You need to let me know you're safe because even I'm worried at this point. But Peggy never got in contact with Elizabeth or anyone else, and by the next day, her phone was still going straight to voicemail. So Elizabeth decided to take things into her own hands and try to go and look for her, just to confirm she was okay. So she first went to Peggy and Thomas's home and realized right off the bat something wasn't quite right. She would have been home that day, but her truck wasn't there. And when she went inside the house, all of Peggy's personal items were gone. Things like her nurse bag, which she left at home unless she was working. I think
It happens. I do it too. I see a case somebody shows and it interests me. Let me tell you what, I go far into the rabbit holes, so I get it. I get it. But especially these Oklahoma cases. I mean, I don't know. What if Veronica and Jillian wouldn't have been found? We'd still be looking. And there's several that's never been found in Oklahoma. Unsolved cases. At least we can say they've got some in custody and the trial will bring out what all happened.
her hairbrush was gone, just like a whole bunch of random small personal items were no longer in the home. So Elizabeth is thinking to herself now, even if she just stayed the night with this guy at the hotel or just something, she is going to show up to pick Ethan up from school because Thomas never ever picked Ethan up. It was always Elizabeth. So she went to the school parking lot and sat and waited because it was almost time for Ethan to be picked up. And guess who rolls up in the parking lot? Not Peggy, but Thomas. So to put into perspective how absolutely out of character this was for Thomas to be the one to pick Ethan up, Elizabeth at this point, that's all she had to see to call Peggy's mom and say, look, something very wrong has happened to Peggy. It involves Thomas. Call the cops now. So that day, Wednesday, Peggy was reported a missing person, and it didn't take long for things to take an even stranger turn. Elizabeth found Richard's number. She was trying to get in contact with him to see, did you guys hang out that day? Did she stay the night with you? When did you drop her off? Is she for some reason still with you? What's going on? And she got the shock of her life when she reached Richard. Richard said he was still in Texas. Something happened and he had to stay behind, so he wasn't even with her that Tuesday. So why was her phone off the entire day? That means that Peggy could have gone missing as early as Monday mid-morning, the last time any of her friends and any of her family spoke to her, and that made this that much more of an emergency. So friends and family and authorities at this point are out everywhere searching for Peggy. And something odd again happened. Peggy's brother ended up finding her truck at a bar really close to her home. Now, there are multiple different reasons that this is odd. First of all, Peggy never ever went to this bar. I don't think it's anywhere she ever went or would typically go to. So for her car to be there didn't make a lot of sense. Second of all, she wasn't in the bar, so it's not like she, pulled up to go have a drink. She would have had to have dropped the car off and left, which didn't make sense because
in the other story that I was showing you through True Crime News, it says that the ex and Ethan, the little boy, the dad went and showed Ethan the car and told Ethan his mom ran off with somebody. So it is very strange.
As every other person that would have possibly picked her up or done anything with her didn't know where she was and hadn't heard from her. So they decided to look into the security footage, but while they were waiting for that, they decided to go ahead and also call Thomas and let him know that Peggy's car had been found. And he immediately showed up to the bar with this theory that he had. Now, this is the first time I see that he's actually come and done anything. Does that mean he didn't help out initially before this? I don't know. Maybe it's just not been reported, but I know that he sure as heck showed up lickety-split once her car was found. And he said, oh, she definitely ran away. Now, I don't know why he believed this, what his theory specifically was, where he thinks she went to, if she said something to him, but he just randomly shows up days later saying she ran away. I would assume he would have told someone that days before when she never showed up at home, but here we are. Now, the bar and authorities finally were able to get into the security footage, and they really had a few things they wanted to look for in this footage. They wanted a time, so when the car was dropped off, they wanted a day, they wanted who was in the car? Was it one person? Was it two people? Was it Peggy? Was it not? And then they were trying to back up this idea that she had run away, which is what Thomas was saying. So they were assuming, if this is a runaway situation, maybe she dropped her car off, got into another vehicle with someone else, and left. So they were also looking for another vehicle around the time. And what they saw was not what they expected to find, to say the least.
At 5:20 a.m., the morning after Peggy McGuire disappeared, surveillance cameras here at this bar captured her truck being driven up this road, pull in this driveway, and it was left right here in the parking lot. Peggy's family doesn't believe she's the shadowy figure seen walking away from the truck in a storm.
So at around 5 a.m. Tuesday morning, in the middle of an incredibly bad storm, the truck is seen pulling slowly into the parking lot. Someone parks the car there, and a strange figure is seen walking away from the car, like completely on foot, just walking. Now, unfortunately, because of the weather and the lighting at 5, they couldn't tell anything about this person. They couldn't tell if it was a male or a female. I have seen a few people state that it was a man. I've looked at the footage. I don't know how you could ever figure that out. From the footage, it looked like someone with a hoodie on. It literally was just the dark outline of a human being. But the one thing they did notice is that there definitely wasn't a car anywhere around there, at least in close vicinity, waiting for Peggy. So if this was Peggy running away, she was doing it on foot, which again didn't make a lot of sense. Now, while you couldn't see the person and authorities were never able to figure out who exactly was the driver of the vehicle, you could see the way this person moved, and Peggy's family saw the footage and immediately knew exactly who it was, at least in their opinion. They said it was Thomas. I'm sure you're wondering, well, if he dropped it off, then surely he had to have someone come and pick him up. I mean, it's pouring rain. One thing it was close to was his grandmother's home. So he would have had an easy walk to a relative's house if he had been the one to drop off this car. But unfortunately, looking at the way someone moves and no physical evidence on top of that isn't enough to prove someone has done something. There was nothing at all to support that Peggy ran away. Literally at all. She loved her family. She loved her son. She had a brand new career. She had this plan in motion. She was in the middle of doing something good, and there would be no reason she would run away from it. She was talking with this new guy. She was excited about meeting him. It just didn't make any sense. And speaking of her son, he actually came forward to a family member with some interesting information. But I want to warn you before I go into this, authorities had no way to corroborate this, so just be aware of that as I say this. So apparently Ethan came forward to a family member and told them that his dad, Thomas, had driven him by Peggy's car before the car was found. So pretty much before she was really reported missing, because it was found pretty close afterwards. Ethan said Thomas put him in the car and they drove by the bar, and he slowed down and he pointed at the car and he said, "Ethan, that's your mom's car, and just to let you know, your mom has run away, and this is where she parked her car before leaving." Now, if that is true, there are many, many things very wrong with this situation. First of all, that means Thomas knew where the truck was and he didn't report it, which would make a lot of sense as to why he definitely jumped up real quick the second that it was found to go and give officers an idea of why it was there. It also matches directly the theory that Thomas told police. Now, I don't know if the family knew Thomas made these allegations that she ran away when they said Ethan said this. That could kind of, in my opinion, prove if Ethan really did say it or not. Because if authorities hadn't told them Thomas made that claim, then they wouldn't have known to create a story like that. But again, I just don't know the timeline. But that also means that Thomas knew the entire time that Peggy ran away and never did anything. He never called her family. He never called authorities. The time that, the family was searching, he never told them she ran away. It just, there's a lot of issues with it. And on top of that, Evan's very, very young. In situations like this where one parent runs away, typically the other parent spends forever trying to figure out how to explain the situation to their child in a way that they don't feel like they've done something wrong. Typically, as sad as it sounds, a lot of parents will lie to protect the feelings of their child. So it's just unusual behavior for him to take his son before Peggy's even reported missing, before the car is even found, and be like, look, that's your mom's car, and guess what? She ran away. It's just weird, and it makes it feel like there is an ulterior motive. With the relationship history between Peggy and Thomas and the plans that Peggy had to meet another man that Tuesday, everyone that knew Peggy was concerned that Thomas found out about these plans and he became enraged. But authorities seem to be having a bit of a hard time investigating the case. Everyone involved said they were really dragging their feet because the McIntosh family was a very well-known family. The county they were in was McIntosh County. There's a lot of people in the McIntosh family that were very, very well respected. So there wasn't a lot getting done because I'm guessing authorities didn't want to step on toes. They never searched the land around Thomas's house. They never searched Thomas and Peggy's house. I don't know who they questioned. I don't know if they ever even fully interrogated or questioned him. There just wasn't a lot done, and it took 2 weeks for them to finally decide to bring in the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations to help. And what's interesting about this is that they brought in OSBI, and from everyone else's perspective, the police hadn't done anything so far. But one of the first things they told OSBI is that they believed it was a homicide investigation. So if they truly believed that, why on earth did they not go and search the home? Why on earth did they not do more than they already had? When OSBI started working on the case, one of the first things they wanted to do was pinpoint her phone calls. They wanted to narrow down where she might have been, because at this point we know when her truck was dropped off, and they kind of wanted to figure out where she was. And they wanted to see who the last person she spoke to was, and this led them straight to Richard. Now, Richard said he was the last to speak to Peggy. He was very cooperative during this portion, I know that. He said that he spoke to her after she dropped off Ethan, so likely after she got off the phone with her stepdad. They had a conversation. He said that she claimed to be at her home making beef jerky, and this was probably around 10 or so in the morning. He ended up having to get off the call to take another call, but the plan was that he was going to call her back. And in this short time it took for him to take this other phone call, by the time he called her back, it was going straight to voicemail. So we know, based on the information we have, she was fine. She was at home. She was cooking beef jerky. She was supposed to do that, measure her back deck. She had these plans. She was supposed to see this guy the next day, but for some reason, shortly after 10, her phone goes completely silent. At this point, they're worried maybe Peggy was caught by Thomas talking on the phone to Richard. Maybe Thomas had suspected something and came in, was eavesdropping something, heard her talking to another man, and flipped. This would trigger jealousy issues, and there was absolutely no telling what he would have done based off of the information they had received from her family and past experiences and 2 past legal actions taken against him. So they decided to go ahead and check Thomas's phone and figure out where he was at the time that her phone went silent. Sure enough, Thomas's phone and Peggy's phone pinged around the same time, and both of them pinged off the same tower. So this means that Peggy and Thomas were almost in the same vicinity. Now, unfortunately, there's no way with phone pinging to tell an exact location of someone. There's just a tower, and then there's like a certain mile radius around that you just have to be inside. So this in no way proved that Thomas was in fact at their home. And my first thought was, well, there would have been nowhere else for him to be. But after further research, I found that he could have been at his grandmother's house. Now, I don't know if she's ever given him an alibi. I don't know if she's confirmed that he was there. All we know is he was in the area. It's possible he could have been there, which means he likely would have heard her on the phone with another man, and that would not have been a good thing. So authorities decided to go ahead and speak to neighbors to see if anyone saw anything, and sure enough, one neighbor did. According to this neighbor, a little bit before noon that day, on Monday, so just 2 hours after Peggy got off the phone with Richard, a neighbor saw Thomas flying down the road in his tractor, and the bucket was raised like all the way up. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but this is not a typical way to drive a tractor. Even when you're carrying something, it's still not a typical way to drive it. So this immediately struck the neighbor as odd, and the speed struck the neighbor as odd. But unfortunately, when OSBI questioned the neighbor, he didn't for sure see Thomas. He said that he saw the tractor flying down the road, and it appeared to be the tractor that belonged to Thomas. And after knowing now that Peggy was missing, he believed that the bucket was up so high because Peggy was likely in it. At this point, Thomas had hired an attorney, and the attorney said this was in no way, shape, or form possible. He said that the neighbor just simply switched up his days, and it's easily explainable that way. According to Thomas's attorney, that Sunday, so just the day before, Thomas had been on the tractor around the same time, and he was quickly moving hay, preparing for upcoming storms. But OSBI wasn't quick to jump on this idea that it was just a wrong day, wrong time, based off of all the other information they had. So they decided to go ahead and check it out. When they located the tractor, they did in fact find something red inside of the bucket of the tractor. However, it was so degraded from storms and time at this point, and dirt and all other things it had been used for, that it was impossible to tell if it was just a rust spot or if it was actually blood. They decided to keep on searching.
Today, agents served a search warrant at McGuire's home. They're using search dogs and drones to search the property around it, as well as other properties in the Stidham area. McGuire's loved ones have been searching for her on their own for 3 weeks. They're just relieved to see an official search is underway.
We don't know what to expect. It's been so long. We just want a closure.
The Highway Patrol will search this area by air later this evening. They're going to be looking for any sign of a heat signature that could indicate the presence of a shallow grave.
They searched about 80 acres in the area around the home. They used drones. They used cadaver dogs. They used helicopters. They searched on foot. They searched everywhere they possibly could at this point, thinking if he took her somewhere in a tractor or if Thomas is involved, he likely would have dumped her somewhere on all of this land. But unfortunately, they came back with nothing until they searched the house. When they searched Peggy and Thomas's house, they found blood in a few spots. They found it on the couch, they found some blood on a pair of utility gloves, and they found blood on a utility bucket. But unfortunately, just like the tractor, the samples were so worn down. It had been weeks since Peggy was last seen, so this potential evidence just sat to have nothing done with it because authorities had never thought to check this in the first 2 weeks that Peggy had gone missing. So everything had just been sitting, and because of this, the lab was not able to even determine if it was animal blood or human blood. They couldn't even tell what it was, so there was no way of knowing if it was Peggy's blood. Authorities were stuck. They didn't find any remains, and all of the potential evidence that they had gathered had degraded and gave them no answers. The patterns of the relationship did suggest that there was this huge potential of foul play, especially given the circumstances around the time when Peggy disappeared. But Thomas just kept on fighting that idea. According to his attorney, he was very open, very willing to help authorities. He had his own efforts eventually to help search and to try to locate Peggy. And his attorney also just had this entirely different narrative of their relationship and what happened up to her disappearance. So Thomas's attorney said that Thomas believed, up until the point that Peggy disappeared, that he and Peggy were still together. Now, Peggy had told everyone it was a platonic relationship that she was planning on getting out, but he said that is in no way, shape, or form what really was happening. Thomas said that when she left the last time, he was really upset and he just wanted the family together. So they decided to come and work on their relationship. And he said that things were getting better. But after a while, he started noticing a change in Peggy. Thomas said that Peggy started going off for unexplainable amounts of time. And he started to get the gut feeling that she was seeing other men. Now, Thomas's attorney also, however, wouldn't deny that it's possible Thomas found evidence of this and got mad. But he has said even if he did, he never would have killed or harmed Peggy, which I'm not convinced of because of the past. Now, Thomas's attorney has made sure to tear down all of the prior instances of abuse in any way he possibly can, and in my opinion, in the crappiest, most disrespectful ways possible. So, despite there being charges on Thomas for strangling Peggy, they were dropped, but that doesn't mean those charges never existed to begin with. And despite there being a protection order taken out against him, along with a string of issues since high school, he says no one can prove anything because charges were dropped. Peggy went back. That clearly means that no abuse ever happened to her. He said that Peggy's nose can't be proven. So he basically is discrediting every single thing. He said there's no medical proof that she ever went to the ER. True Crime Daily tried to check to see if she went to the ER. I guess no one can get the medical records, which I mean, I get because those are personal things. But you know, I understand there being no proof of that, but there's proof that she filed a protection order. There's proof that she pressed charges against him. And again, like I said, just because they were dropped doesn't mean they don't exist. But he said, and I quote, "These things are just small town legends," and went on to talk about how these small town legends occur. And that bothers me so badly. When you are dealing with abuse, you feel small, you feel insignificant, you feel helpless, and you will get these waves of bravery when something bad happens. And a lot of the times, victims of abuse will go and report it. Not all the time. It's like 1 in a million times they will go and report this abuse. But the second that wave of bravery goes away, that person that abuses them will put fear back into them, say something scary, and this immediately makes them feel guilty, and they'll go and they'll drop the charges. This is a very clear pattern. It's a very obvious pattern that had been happening in their relationship from the beginning with a legal trail behind it. As small as that legal trail might have been, it still exists and it matches up to what everybody else is saying. So chalking it up to the idea that it's small town legends is the most stereotypical ignorance of abuse that I have ever seen, and it pisses me off so freaking bad. I understand that as a lawyer he has to defend his client, but that doesn't give him the right to call an abuse victim a liar, especially when there is obvious proof behind it, and especially when that same abuse victim is likely dead. Since then, it has been completely silent. There has been no more physical evidence that's been found, and authorities are essentially at this point relying on remains. Peggy's case is still classified as a suspicious missing persons case, but everyone investigating it has pretty much openly stated she likely is no longer alive, and it is likely if they find any more evidence, it will be changed to a homicide investigation. Her phone has still not been turned on. She's not used any of her bank cards. Her social security number hasn't been used elsewhere. While we don't know who might have killed Peggy or if she's even been killed because there's just no evidence so far to fully prove one way or another, the one thing I am absolutely certain of is that she did not run away, and Thomas is highly suspicious. Peggy stayed with an abusive man for a long time, and she went back with this abusive man hoping that she could get her ducks in a row, hoping to better her life for her son. You cannot tell me that after she finally succeeded in 90% of her plan, she decided to run away, leaving her son behind, the one person she wanted to protect, in the hands of a man that abused her for years and that she was so desperately trying to get away from. I just don't believe it. To top it off, that particular day, she had plans. She had spoken with family members. She's spoken with Richard. She was making food. You're meaning to tell me in the middle of her making food, she's like, now's my time. You know, she didn't know that Richard was going to get another call. She didn't know that she was going to have that moment to just get up and run. Authorities have also stated this likely was not a stranger abduction or any sort of foul play that involves a stranger. Peggy's mother has sued for visitation of Ethan. She sued sometime in 2018 under the fear that Ethan too would become a victim of abuse and manipulation, either emotionally or physically. Now, I'm not sure if this was something that was successful. I know that Thomas did not allow anyone from Peggy's family to see Ethan from the time that she disappeared up until this court battle. So I hope on everything that they at least have some sort of visitation at this point. I have seen their Facebook page. They seem pretty active on the Facebook page. They post pictures of him and wish him happy birthday. And I don't know if that means they see him or if that's their way of hoping they somehow get to him, even if it's just through social media. This is a heartbreaking case because there are patterns in crime. You see the same type of scenario over and over and over again, and this feels like another one of those scenarios, just like last week felt like another one of those scenarios where jealousy got the best of someone that was known to be controlling and something terrible happened out of it. And this is a mother. Her son is hoping she comes home. Her son, if he is only still with his dad, might still think his mom just ran away, and none of the evidence points to that whatsoever. I am really worried if anything is found how Thomas's lawyer will react, because if he has the same lawyer, this man gives absolutely no crap about what he says, who he hurts, who he disrespects. I find it unbelievable that he just so publicly stated that she's a liar and that this abuse is just made up when all of that stuff is smacked in front of his face. And as someone who tries to be such an advocate for abuse victims, people like that are the reason why nobody is taken seriously. And you sit here and wonder why didn't she say anything? Why is there no proof? Why is there no evidence? If you've never been in abuse, you will not understand. You have to just trust these people, because them coming to you, even if it's saying one thing, the smallest thing, even leaving the tiniest trail of evidence, probably took everything. And while doing that, they probably feared for their life the entire time. I don't know where the investigation stands at this point. I don't know if there is, other searches being done. I don't know what authorities are doing. I do know that I've seen on their Facebook page that the local authorities in McIntosh County are not doing anything. The family and friends have actually asked that anyone with information only contacts the OSBI. So that is the only number I will be leaving down below. They're pretty sure that the local authorities are ignoring most tips that come in, and OSBI seems to be doing their job properly. So that is where I want any and all information to go to, because that is what I have seen that the family and friends want out of the situation. There is a $150,000 reward for any information. $150,000. That is a lot of money, a whole crap load of money. Someone knows something. People that are hunting need to keep their eye out in this area for any remains that seem to have been dumped in a certain location. $150,000 is a lot, and rewards can go a long way, but that information just has to reach the right person. So make sure you guys are sharing this video, just the story in general. I have linked all of the True Crime Daily videos down below. There is a missing persons flyer that you guys can share. Just spread this information as far as you can, because someone always knows something and that person just needs to come forward. As always, all the contacts that you need to get to if you have some information on this case are listed down below. And I want to thank you guys more than anything for taking the time out of your day to listen to Peggy's story. Remember that this is someone's family member, sister, niece, cousin, daughter, mother. She meant something to so many people. So please treat this with respect down in the comments below. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and go, you guys. Thank you so much again.
It's been 1 year since a family last saw their loved one. Peggy McGuire disappeared from the Eufaula area, and OSBI has been investigating ever since. Only on Fox 23, investigative reporter Katie Higgins talked to Peggy's mother about life without her daughter and what she hopes for the future.
I talked to Peggy's mom, Betty Davis, and she told me that people have been Facebook messaging her, calling her, and more with ideas on what happened to her daughter. Now, it's been an unbelievably difficult year for them, but she told me that she will never stop looking for Peggy.
This is Peggy's favorite time of the year.
1 year ago today, Betty Davis got a feeling.
I just had a gut feeling something was wrong.
Her daughter, Peggy McGuire, was nowhere to be found. What did it feel like for you?
Empty.
Davis and I spoke near Eufaula Cove. It was painful for her to talk about life without Peggy.
Not knowing. It's very hard.
So we talked about Peggy's life instead.
Yeah, we'd fish out there. Her smile was contagious. She was an animal lover.
Peggy's dream was to open up a shop downtown with her mom. She wanted to sell soap and lotions made from goats that she raised.
And it made her happy. That's the kind of life she lived.
Davis fears she'll never get to see her daughter's dream come true.
I feel somebody hurt her. Someone got rid of her.
OSBI has been following leads and searching for Peggy as recent as this week.
I catch myself at times wanting to call her.
But then she remembers Peggy's phone, credit card, social security number. They haven't been used for a year.
There's someone out there that knows something.
OSBI still wants to hear from those people and say it's never too late.
I want that closure so I can lay her to rest next to her father.
She told me she'll never rest until she gets it.
I'm never going to stop. I'm Peggy's voice.
Peggy does leave one child behind. OSBI told me that if there's anyone who knows anything about Peggy, the last time that people saw Peggy or anyone acting out of the ordinary, to please just give them a call because any tip could help. Live covering news that matters, I'm Katie Higgins, Fox 23 News.
A man is offering a $100,000 reward to help bring his friend home.
That friend is Peggy McGuire, and she's been missing for a year and a half now. News on 6's Taylor Newcomb is on the story where this friend says enough is enough.
Betty Davis says the last time she heard from her daughter, Peggy McGuire, she was heading to her home here in Stidham. That was a year and a half ago. She says she knows someone has to know what happened to her. She's hoping that this catch incentive will help them open up. Just 11 days before her 30th birthday, Peggy McGuire disappeared. That was in November of 2015. She hasn't been seen since.
I was calling her and texting her, never heard from her and haven't seen her since. Very odd, because she kept in touch with me pretty regular.
Davis says since then, her life has been a living nightmare.
It's been terrible not knowing. It's a empty feeling loss. No answers.
Davis had already put up $50,000 of her own money as a reward and was planning to put her house on the market to add 25 more. That's when a longtime friend of Peggy stepped in and said he'd added $100,000 to the pot.
Having to keep seeing it in my Facebook feed is just something that keeps just tearing at my heart, and I'm tired of seeing it. It needs to be solved.
Taylor says he suffered from a bad stroke in 2010, and he made a deal with God that if he lived, he'd do whatever God asked him to do, no questions asked. He says helping Peggy is just one of those tasks.
I was compelled to do this, and I don't question why. I know that whatever's looking out for me up above will take care of the rest.
Davis says she does not believe her daughter is still alive, but she and her family desperately need closure. On the scene, on the story in Stidham, Taylor Newcomb, News on 6.
And guys, that's right. And here in Guyman, there's actually already a memorial set up for two of the victims in this case. But earlier today, I actually spoke with two different attorneys, one who knew the suspect in this case, Tiffany Adams, and another who knew the victim in this case, Veronica Butler. They say even though the two were in the middle of a custody battle, they had one thing in common. They both loved the children. Do you think her grandchildren was motive enough to kill Veronica?
Oh, I don't think I should speak to that.
While we may not know if Tiffany Adams killed the mother of her grandchildren, the attorney who formerly represented Adams in a custody case says one thing was apparent. She loved her grandkids. Adams and three others are charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit murder.
We had a cooperative relationship, so I don't know what was going on, obviously, to the full extent that others did.
Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly are the two women at the center of a murder mystery. According to court records, they were on the way to meet Adams to pick up Veronica's children, but they never made it. The attorney who represented Veronica in the custody case calling it a tragedy.
Whether the sole motivation was the custody battle or not, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, somebody's gone forever, and that decision is permanent. You can't take that back.
So who was Tiffany Adams, other than the grandmother at the center of the custody battle and now accused of murder? According to a family member with close ties to one of the arrested suspects, these four were in an anti-government group with religious affiliation, God's Misfits. Those who knew her stunned at the case.
Well, it is bizarre, and it is gothic. Not to mention, of course, the loss of two lives.
And all four suspects are expected in the Texas County Courthouse tomorrow morning. Of course, we will be there to bring you the very latest. Reporting live in Guyman, Megan Mosley, KOCO 5 News.
Oh, sorry, I was looking, trying to catch up. How's everyone doing? Doing great. Doing great. We just went over a case of Oklahoma mom that's been missing, $150,000 reward from 2015. Husband was last seen driving a tractor with a bucket on it, which they believe had her body in it. They still haven't found her. And I'm going to go over another, and I got zapped for trying to show it in the true crime in one of the videos. Listen, this is the thing. And yes, I was stopped. I'm glad Christopher's here. So there's a lot going on in the YouTube streets. I see it. I see it a lot. Let's see here. In April 2024, there was a tip to drain a pond in Oklahoma, but there is no follow-up report. I'm guessing they did not find Peggy's remains then. Got it. Yeah, the $150,000 reward is just for information that leads to finding Peggy's body. Her poor mom, she needs to bring her daughter home. You know, I'm going to pull up the other one. I've got it ready. But I want to talk about the Kansas moms. Okay? I never said I was the only one looking. When I was on boots on the ground, I was the one looking. For 2 days, my friend Sarah brought her worker who worked for her. You guys probably saw him on Carrie's show. Listen, there's a lot I can tell you about that guy, and I will tell you, but not today. There's a lot. All right. There's so much that went down the night they left too. And one thing about it is I was live and I was filming. I got it all, every bit of it on video. So, but where we're at with the Kansas mom story is we got to let the trial get started. You know, I'm still going to be balls to the wall about wearing body cam. I don't understand that. Also, listen, I never chose to be a YouTube creator. This was something that just kind of happened, and here I am. So, but one thing I do know is when you investigate cases, you have to investigate all the case. You can't just put out there what people want to hear, because that's doing you no justice. If you're not reporting everything you know about the case, and I mean everything, then what justice are you doing? People don't just go and kill 2 innocent women and for no reason. Like, there's more to it than that. And so I pissed off some people because I found the more to it than that. And I'm not going to stop. I'm going to try very hard not to put down the family. That's for sure. I want them to have answers, but is it fair to hide what they got in their closet that caused, in my opinion, that caused some of this or all of it? Listen, this is a YouTube channel. We're not out to slander anybody. But what YouTube channel don't tell the truth? And I'm not a scammer. I'm not sitting here begging you for money. I don't want your money. And I did say something the other day when I was going to court, and people did donate money for an attorney. I think it was like $470. So Um, it won't be used personally for me, and I will figure it out. It seems some people have some problems about setting up a trust fund for CW too. So I'm just going to get with an attorney and see exactly how something like that is done and go with it from there. But I want to show you some things. We're going back to the Kansas mom's case right now. And Nona, I'm going to try to show your friend and what happened to your friend. But I plan on traveling. I plan on getting my life back. I feel like I put more than enough into this case, and I'm not giving up on it. And I'm going to continue. But I'm not going to step back when I find something that is negative but could have added to this case. Like, listen, I believe that there's been a lot hidden, and I'm finding it, and it's pissing people off. It's really pissing people off. No, you're right. Yeah, I'm always giving. And even that, you know what? Even when I did that, I even felt guilty about it. So, I'll figure out what to do with that money. Wrangler's babies being born in the morning, they got to get a house. I did get an attorney that's drawing up some stuff. This really ain't that big a deal. Everything is on live video. So, I mean, to me, the court's not a big deal. I have not seen Tad's mom since that day, nor did I even know who she was that day. I didn't appreciate her telling me to get out of there, but also I didn't appreciate myself cussing at her. So either way, and I wanted to get a tag number. And then there was a van parked behind me. Either way, listen, I don't try to blame the family for what a family member does. Like, do I feel sorry for Tad's mom? I do. I absolutely do feel sorry for her. She didn't ask to be drug into this. She's going to support her son. Until the truths come out and exactly what happened, we don't know what happened. Rumors obviously has been flying since day one as to what happened. But until that trial comes, we really won't know what exactly happened. I'm just saying, you don't just go kill 2 women because you got nothing better to do, especially 5 of them. So that'll bleed somewhere, and that's where I want to show you this. I want to show you this. I was going to save it till Wednesday, but I didn't even realize that Rick's birthday's Wednesday. And actually, I got a lot coming up. I got to go back to Colorado. I got to go to the skin cancer doctor. I've got a lot of health things that I've got to take care of myself. But with that said, I'm going to show you something. And this is to the Kansas case. Where did it go? Hold on, let me look. Did I knock it out of there? Here we go. I found several where Tiffany Adams's attorney spoke out, and the aunt, Veronica's aunt, sent out a lot of stuff, a lot of paperwork she shared. She shared it in Discord, and she shared it by text message. She's the one that shared it. I just reshared it, but I didn't share any names. So, but let's listen to Tiffany Adams' attorney. This is from a while back. If you look, let's see here, let me make sure that StreamYard is working. Okay, it is working. Okay. This is from 4 months ago. Stephen Jones, the former attorney for Tiffany Adams, joins News Nation Chris Como to discuss the recent arrest of Adams and 4 others in connection to the killings of Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly. Authorities have said the deaths of Butler and Kelly is believed to be linked to a violent escalation in custody dispute between Butler and Adams. You know, it was said early on that that there were sexual allegations. You know, usually judges don't put supervised visitations on somebody because nothing happened. And we're going to hear from Tiffany Adams' attorney right now. This from way back then, so you guys can see. Yeah, dirty laundry comes out, like kind of like the Summer Wells case. All the dirty laundry was aired, but someone had to air it. The answer is usually close to home. And I believe that in this case too, 100%. And that's pissing people off. But if you're not out for the truth, then why even waste your time watching? Like, to me, the truth is everything. Hey, Jay Thomas, the truth is everything. And listen, I don't have a problem with any other creators covering this story at all. Like, I think the more attention it gets, the better off it gets. Not the negative attention, the good attention. Like, where you're really trying to find the answers and you're posting about the case. You're not out there just posting about somebody you want to attack. You're posting about the case. Derek and Jessica, they go in the courtroom. Like, I think they do an awesome job. I don't have a problem with Derek. But let's watch this because, and I want you to pay close attention to what he has to say because, oops, he's got a lot to say. Are you guys with me? Elbow made me think of the woman that murdered in Colorado. The families were very embarrassed, but in the end, the truth is what led to finding her killer, right? And this case is so horrible. I don't think Veronica knew. I mean, I don't think Jillian knew anything about this case other than she was, you know, she was on the list to do supervised visitations. But I could be totally wrong. I don't think she knew all this existed and the allegations that were found sustained existed. Yeah, you heard me right. They were found sustained. And this attorney alleges to it, but why did the aunt send all that out to everybody? Obviously, she wanted everybody to know. So interesting. But let's play him. Okay. We're going to make it big. I'm going to back it up all the way. Here we go.
I could not imagine it. It was a shock to find out she was charged.
When you look through the documents, counsel, and the recitation of what happened from the 16-year-old witness specifically, it is a pretty compelling narrative that your client was absolutely involved in this and it was planned. How do you understand that?
Well, to be fair, this has been a contentious custody and guardianship matter, and a lot of temporary orders have been entered by the court, but no final orders having been entered. It's gone on too long and it's too acrimoniously.
Did you hear that?
Acrimoniously. Now, at the
Did you guys hear that? We're going to do that all over again because I really want you to pay attention because Stephen Jones knows what's going on. Stephen Jones knows what's went on in this case. And somewhere, in my opinion, the court failed the children. Definitely failed the children. Let's go.
Ms. Adams is a well-known member of the community. She's in the farming and ranching business. Her family is pioneers. She's on the board of the county hospital, and she's a farmer rancher. She has strong feelings. The children's mother and father were never married, so we have this custody battle. The father is serving a time in prison, so he's not available. And she asked the court in a petition for guardianship to be made the guardian of the children,
Right.
in other words, custody. Now, what brought this on was the issue of temporary visitation and whether it would be
Supervised or unsupervised?
Yes.
Right, but
And-
I get all that, and I get that it was ugly, counsel. What I'm saying is, did you ever get any indication that your client was willing, desperate enough to do anything violent to the mother just to keep custody of the kids?
I did not.
When you heard that, you say she's a member of the community, she's well known. Did you know that she was a part of an organization called God's Misfits that's supposedly this kind of anarchic organization that's anti-government, anti-rules?
I did not know that, but I'm not surprised. Cimarron County and much of the Panhandle is very individualistic, independent, mostly farmers and town suppliers, and very, very conservative. And I've represented people in the Panhandle over 50 years. And every time I go out there, I hear about a new group that doesn't believe in your dollar bill or other things. And that just goes on in Cimarron County. It's a small, isolated county, looks to Amarillo, shops Amarillo, watches Amarillo television, and they keep to themselves. But since 1960, they have changed politically. Very evangelical, very conspiratorial in the sense of not trusting the government. That's probably half the county. The other half of the county is traditional farmers and ranchers,
right,
who pay their bills and participate in community life.
Well, this is the first half, it seems, we're dealing with here, counsel. Did you ever pick up anything in her that would have indicated she had this kind of character, that she could plan a hit basically on the mother of her grandchildren? I mean, we have some context here. Her own son, who's in rehab, I didn't understand him to be in prison. I thought he was in rehab, says that she was threatening him and saying that he better put his name on the things that she tells him to. I mean, she sounds like a mob boss more than a grandmother. You didn't pick up any of that in her.
I did not. And the reason I did not is because there's an element that has not been considered here. The Kansas Department of the Protection of Children and the county sheriff in Hugoton, Kansas, conducted a 27-page review of the allegations that Mrs. Butler's 18-year-old half-brother had sexually violated not only the two children here, but his own brother, plus others.
Right.
That report exists. I can assure you it's on the prosecutor's desk and on whoever represents her now. That was a very serious
Yes, I was talking again. I was saying, listen to that, okay? The aunt actually sent out paperwork to everybody in Discord. I got mine by text messages. I can approve it. But if you know that 2 children are being sexually abused, are you going to overlook it? Like, I think, in my opinion, that the Kansas Department of Children's Services really dropped the ball too. I'm in agreement with this attorney because I can't seem to find anything after what the aunt sent out, which was the sustained report from Children's Services. So pay attention to this guy. He's telling you the truth. This attorney is.
The government. Now, that's probably half the case. Conspiratorial in the sense of not trusting the government. Now, that's probably half the county. The other half of the county is traditional farmers and ranchers,
right,
who pay their bills and participate in community life. So
well, this is the first half, it seems, we're dealing with here. Counsel, did you ever pick up anything in her that would have indicated she had this kind of character, that she could plan a hit basically on the mother of her grandchildren? I mean, we have some context here. Her own son, who's in rehab, I didn't understand him to be in prison. I thought he was in rehab, says that she was threatening him and saying that he better put his name on the things that she tells him to. I mean, she sounds like a mob boss more than a grandmother. You didn't pick up any of that in her.
I did not. And the reason I did not is because there's an element that has not been considered here. The Kansas Department of the Protection of Children and the county sheriff in Hugoton, Kansas, conducted a 27-page review of the allegations that Mrs. Butler's 18-year-old half-brother had sexually violated not only the 2 children here, but his own brother, plus others.
Right.
That report exists. I can assure you it's on the prosecutor's desk and on whoever represents her now. That was a very serious allegation.
Sure.
And Mrs. Adams' position was that Mrs. Butler didn't believe that her brother could do that,
right,
even though the department found that he could. And so for her to have visitation without supervision was dangerous to the children. And the judge has already found that there was probable cause to believe that this boy was a sexual predator and had attacked her children. Now, her son, and let's face it, they're estranged. These 2 people, the mother and father, were never married.
Right.
They're marginal in the economy, although the son has tried to turn himself around. And the allegations, every allegation that could be made is there. But the fact is, I've read the report. I know what it says.
Right. I believe that. I believe that the allegations for probable cause, as we both know, you being a much more veteran, officer of the court than I am, but probable cause is a very low standard. It was early on in the review. But even if all the allegations were true, the idea that the rational remedy, counsel, is to plan a hit on the mother and the person who's there to provide guidance, absenting someone that you like, right? Because there was another woman who was supposed to be there that the grandmother allegedly told not to come, and then murder them and bury them doesn't seem to be the right remedy for the best interests of the child.
No, and that's the state's case. If what you just said is true, then we have a horrible homicide in which 2 people were ambushed that were coming to pick up one of them's child. And it's gothic. It's something out of the Bates Motel. And it's a terrible thing. Whoever is responsible for it it is shocking. There's no question about that.
I think that, the most surprising thing to me, especially this, and then I'll let you go, and I appreciate your time, Mr. Jones, is that you could know somebody through the course of this and be completely shocked that she had this level of animus towards the mother, that you never saw any trace of that.
I did not. I saw eccentricity. I saw Cimarron County individualism and independence, but I didn't see the prospect of homicide.
Stephen Jones, I appreciate you very much. I know that you're recovering from a procedure. I wish you the best. Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find.
What do you guys think about that? Just curious. And then here was Veronica's attorney too. But so the Department of Children's Services investigated and found substantiated evidence, and then was waiting for the courts to do something about it. And I mean, I find a lot of problems with this case. And again, people think I'm attacking the family when I'm not trying to attack the family. The truths are the truths. And do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? Like, I absolutely 100% agree that all 5 of these need to be charged to the fullest extent. My opinion is it was premeditated murder. But did the grandma, granny, did she get tired of waiting for the courts to do something? Like, I don't know. Was she that concerned that she wasn't going to be able to protect the kids? And again, the aunt sent out the Kansas Child Services report that was 7-page long. She sent it to many people, and it said sustained, and it was very disgusting. Like, I didn't show you what was in there, and it's very disgusting. I didn't break into a building and steal it. It was sent to me amongst other people. So I guess you have to really know the whole story. And Julian, I don't think she had any clue. I don't think Julian had any clue that these allegations were sustained, and really what she was getting into. I've not been able to find anywhere how many times Julian had even been on these supervised visitations. Was this her first supervised visitation to go on? Now, we all know that court was coming up on April 17th, and Veronica was trying to get the supervised visitation lifted. We all know that Wrangler is in rehab. He's been in rehab. He went to rehab on March 22nd. The disappearances happened on March 30th, the day before Easter. Yet, I got there. I didn't see any command post. I didn't see anybody looking for Veronica and Julian. I can't wait to see why. Why there was nobody looking. Why law enforcement didn't have a command post. Why they wasn't looking. Because on March 30th, Veronica and Julian went to pick up the kids. The car was found on L Road. 2 little piles of blood was there. It wasn't big piles. It's just going to be interesting to see how this plays out. In no sense am I saying it's okay. I absolutely, it's not okay. We got to get justice for Veronica and Julian. at the same time, everything needs to be known. Even with that being known, that did not give Granny a right to do what she did. If she's found to have did it, which we all assume that she did with her 4 friends. We just gotta wait for court. But I'm just really stumped. I really want to know what LE knew on March 30th that stopped searches from going on. They searched for a little bit, and the way I understood it, it was the Reserve Fire Department and ranchers. Maybe it was LE. What LE? I'd like to see what their LE either explicitly knew or strongly suspected, but you didn't have any bodies. So why wouldn't you still search? Like, I really, 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 really would like to know how they did not do searches. Go to the chat. I didn't know the news about the abuse. Yeah, it's a 7. I saw a 7-page report, so obviously there's even more. And it had 2 case numbers on it. One of them went in very, very nasty detail, and it was sustained. And it said the case number to the other one, sustained. And man, where do you go from here? I don't know. Got to wait for trial, but you're not a very good reporter if you don't let everything out there. I didn't realize Cuomo had did this interview with Tiffany's prior attorney, nor did I. If I did know of it, I didn't pay attention, because when you have a divorce, you have a lot of allegations, and that's exactly what they usually are, allegations that go around. But in this case, it seems to be a paper trail that the allegations was not just allegations. And I'm sure that'll be brought up in court. I'm sure the attorney's got it. A judge can get that full 27-page report. Obviously, this attorney got that 27-page report. I wouldn't be surprised if this attorney's not on the witness list. Okay, so many others in the area said TA and TC were definitely the kind of people who would do something like this. Even Wrangler told stories of her that was very disturbing. I agree with that. But you don't just go out and make two people disappear because you don't like them. There's got to be something deep down driving that. And that'll come out in court. I honestly believe that every bit of this will come out in court. But you got to hear what the attorney just said. And he said about the allegations, he said he read a 27-page report, and he can guarantee that that report is on the DA's desk. So there's more to even what I read. So, hi everyone in mods. Hello, Deb C. Good to see you. Elbow. Let's see here. I think the why is because Ellie knew exactly who and why. They just did not know the how and the where. And it seems like Ellie is connected. Like, all these people know each other, from the DA to Ellie. They're friends. They're all connected. And nobody stepped up. Nobody stepped up. And why was this not followed through in the court system? If you've got Kansas Department of Children's Services coming out with 2 sustained reports. And what about the people living around that area of the accused? And I don't believe that brother to be 18. I will say that. From what I read, he'd be 16 now, and that was 3 years ago. So, and there's 2 brothers. This is it. Listen, it's very disturbing. I hope it comes out in court just so you guys know. Because I seem to be getting slammed because I was sent something from an aunt that I shared. And listen, it took me 7 or 8 times setting that paperwork down and reading it little by little. It's horribly disgusting. Is there other kids in danger that's around these brothers? That would be my question. Because why was the ball dropped? Kansas Department of Children's Services, you need to get on the ball and get things taken care of. Because you got 2 cases here that was found sustained, and the kids are still openly in the community. That was the one, especially, that was accused. What about the other kids in that community? I'm sure they got friends. What's going on there? Flower daisies, I tend to agree. Like, listen, I'm trying to do better. I really am. Trying to do better because I don't want to be the mean person. Because my heart does go out to the families. Like, this is just horrible. And all the kids, these kids have to deal with it for the rest of their life, as far as the kids that no longer are going to have parents around. And yeah, I'm an advocate for Wrangler. You know, do I believe he can be a good dad? Absolutely. I do believe he can be a good dad. And he seems to be doing really good in his rehab. And while he's in his rehab, his probation, it's not going towards his probation. So he's even going to be on probation when he gets out of rehab. I would think that the best place for his children would be with him, as long as he is sober, which I think he'll continue to stay sober. That's my hopes. And I'm not trying to get, I saw somebody say I was trying to get information out of Wrangler. That is not true. I don't ask Wrangler anything. I just try to help him. Like, I'm not trying to do investigating behind the investigating. That children's services stuff was sent to me by Veronica's aunt. I didn't ask for it. It was sent to me. I wonder how many of GM's knew what was about to happen, because this was not the first attempt to get Veronica. I think so many people could have stopped this. I agree. And is it going to come down to Kansas Children's Services did not do their job correctly? I don't know. From what I read, there should have been a lot more done, and it seems to stop on what I've read. That don't mean there's not more out there, but you got an attorney that just said what he thought.
Children. And the judge has already found that there was probable cause to believe that this boy was a sexual predator and had attacked her children. Now, her son.
Now you're hearing this, right? Like, for those of you who missed it, including myself, because you know what? I just assume allegations go around and they just go around.
It seems we're dealing with here, counsel. Did you ever pick up anything in her that would have indicated she had this kind of character, that she could plan a hit basically on the mother of her grandchildren? I mean, we have some context here. Her own son, who's in rehab, I didn't understand him to be in prison. I thought he was in rehab, says that she was threatening him and saying that he better put his name on the things that she tells him to. I mean, she sounds like a mob boss more than a grandmother. You didn't pick up any of that in her.
I did not. And the reason I did not is because there's an element that has not been considered here. The Kansas Department of the Protection of Children and the county sheriff in Hugoton, Kansas, conducted a 27-page review of the allegations.
I don't believe Wrangler knew. I don't believe he was involved. And Leroy, you could be correct. She made it a point to make sure he wasn't involved. I mean, we've heard a lot of stories of how Wrangler was treated too. And Elbow, I see that. I don't have to listen. I understand. Rock, you don't need to defend yourself any, but I want to defend myself. I want people to know what I read and where I'm coming from. You know, a lot of times, listen, a lot of people have skeletons. It happens. But any case that has to do with children and children abuse, it always gets me bad and gets me really upset. Because we as a community, we're supposed to be looking out for the children. Now, if history repeats itself, in that paperwork, it said it happened in another state, and that's why they opened the case in Kansas. So now you've got 2 cases there. And then, of course, they opened one for the grandchildren, too, in that case. So it just, I know what I read, and y'all didn't get to read it because I didn't share what I read. But it was extremely bad and extremely in detail. Again, premeditated murder is premeditated murder. Nobody deserved to die in this circumstance. But at what point did the ball get dropped? Did the judge drop the ball? I don't know. Or did Children's Services drop the ball? And is these accused, or are they locked up? Are they being watched? Are they on an SA list so that you know your neighbor is an SA offender? I'm not finding them on any list, so, and I'm not finding where this case was finished before this happened with Jillian and Veronica. I'm still out for justice for Jillian and Veronica all the way. I don't find this right at all. I don't find it right for even Veronica. Like, what did Veronica know? What was she privileged to? We don't know that. We don't know if she read them documents. We don't have a clue. But I don't believe Jillian knew anything about it, and she is 1,000% innocent. And I believe Veronica's innocent as far as she should not have been killed over this. Now, a judge don't just make supervised visitations because he feels like that's the way to go. He does it off of evidence, and he don't do it just because somebody's got money. So, you know, the original story was Granny paid off the judge. Well, I'm finding out now that the judge really didn't even like Granny, nor did Granny like the judge. But we're going to play this one more time because this is something that seemed to be skipped over in this case a lot. And it's there.
Then Mrs. Butler's 18-year-old half-brother had sexually violated not only the 2 children here.
I don't find him to be 18. I believe he's 16 now. So he wasn't. I think this attorney possibly could have that part wrong. I believe the brothers are 16 and 11, or 14 and 8, maybe 14 and 8. I've got it written down, but anyway, definitely not 18 that I saw.
But his own brother plus others.
Right.
That report exists. Then Mrs. Butler's 18-year-old half-brother had sexually violated not only the 2 children here, but his own brother plus others.
Right.
That report exists. I can assure you it's on the prosecutor's desk and on whoever represents her now. That was a very serious allegation.
Sure.
And Mrs. Adams' position was that Mrs. Butler didn't believe that her brother could do that,
Right.
even though the department found that he could. And so for her to have visitation without supervision was dangerous to the children. And the judge has already found that there was probable cause to believe that this boy was a sexual predator and had attacked her children. Now, her son, and let's face it, they're estranged. These two people, the mother and father, were never married.
Right.
They're marginal in the economy, although the son has tried to turn himself around. And the allegations, every allegation that could be made is theirs. But the fact is, I've read the report. I know what it says.
Right. I believe that. I believe that the allegations for probable cause, as we both know, you being a much more veteran, officer of the court than I am, but probable cause is a very low standard. It was early on in the review. But even if all the allegations were true, the idea that the rational remedy, counsel, is to plan a hit on the mother and the person who's there to provide guidance, absenting someone that you like, right? Because there was another woman who was supposed to be there that the grandmother allegedly told not to come, and then murder them and bury them doesn't seem to be the right remedy for the best interests of the child.
No, and that's the state's case. If what you just said is true, then we have a horrible homicide in which two people were ambushed that were coming to pick up one of them's child. And it's gothic. It's something out of the Bates Motel. And it's a terrible thing. Whoever is responsible for it, it is shocking. There's no question about that.
I think that, the most surprising thing to me, especially this, and then I'll let you go, and I appreciate your time, Mr. Jones, is that you could know somebody through the course of this and be completely shocked that she had this level of animus towards the mother, that you never saw any trace of that.
I did not. I saw eccentricity. I saw Cimarron County individualism and independence, but I didn't see the prospect of homicide.
Stephen Jones, I appreciate you very much. I know that you're recovering from a procedure.
I agree. It should not have resulted in a homicide. But do you guys remember hearing something didn't go as planned? Like, I never, not for a second, believed that Veronica or Jillian, that this should have happened to them. I feel horrible for the families. I think it's a tragedy, and I think that there's no excuses at all for what they did. I agree. There is no excuses for what they did. On the same hand, I want to know what Department of Children's Services is doing, Kansas Department of Children's Services, and what the judge was doing in this case. Because you can look up in your area and you can look up and see who's on a list, okay? On a SA list or violent offender list in your area. I don't see this kid on a list, and this makes a case out of state, a case in state, 2 cases in state. It makes no sense. And are they, I do believe that the courts has fallen behind since COVID. But when it happens to do with kids, it's got to be taken seriously. I find it's got to be taken seriously. And why was there no arrests? Why are the kids still in the same home together? As far as the brothers, like, I hope all that gets sorted out too, because don't seem like a good environment, in my opinion. From what I've read, just don't seem good at all. Handed her children over to the brother accused of abuse. Surely she would have protected them. Well, her brothers are young, so they're still under the house of her mom and stepdad. So, I mean, Veronica might not have known everything, but why was she given supervised visitation? They can't just do that and not tell her why. And there should be a list. That case is not closed from what I can see. It's still open. Take a nap, Patroness Glow. Nap time. I'll be listening until I fall asleep. See you later. We'll have a good nap. Chop liver. See your eyes. That's usually my sign when I go in somewhere. I come in with the eyes. I don't believe they did plan to kill Jillian, but that's my personal opinion, and you're asking me. No. Oh, you made me a hamburger. Thank you. I don't believe they planned on killing Jillian. I do not. And it sucks that they even planned on doing that to Veronica, but it's going to be interesting to see what all comes out, which will be everything. I believe everything will come out in this case. There is no excuse that anybody should have been involved in a homicide. I find that just horrible. I find it horrible for Jillian. I find it horrible for Veronica. I find it horrible for their families. There's other things I find too. And people don't like my opinions on that. So, I don't know. I've dealt a lot with children myself. And wow. It is what it is. Hopefully they get that case resolved that they didn't finish resolving. And everything will come out in court. Again, I think all 5 should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. I do not agree with what they did. The allegations was sustained, Nana. From what the aunt sent out, the allegations was sustained. Which means, sustained means they were found to be true. So at that point, they're not allegations no more, right? Listen, I can't help it if the aunt didn't send it to everybody, but she sent it to a hell of a lot of people. She wanted it out there for a reason. It's crazy. Christopher says, what bothers me most, where are the children at now? Are they in a safe place now? Or back in wrong places? Well, I think you know that answer. I think we all know that answer. The court system's got to step up. Yeah. A hamburger off the Traeger. Yummy. Rick makes the best hamburgers. I like pork chops too. Hard to say, Christopher. The uncertainty is sickening. Well, it definitely soured me on this case. It really did. Definitely still out for 100% justice for Veronica and Jillian. CW is the hero. She stepped up. She told the truth. The kids' dad is in rehab. With about a month left to go. having another baby born in the morning. We wish him the best of luck too. But Rock's not trying to find out information from Wrangler, just FYI. Never have been. Have I been trying to help him? Yeah. He's got to have some kind of good influence in his life, right? Fried taters and fried turnips. I can do the taters. Turnips, man. Yes, but even sustained claims would cause the judge to appropriately require supervision. But the brother would have to be charged and convicted to get on a list. I don't think they're finished with that case, even though it went 3 years. I think that case is going to be finished. Like, I believe that case is going to come back up. I think they're going to finish that case. I think you're going to be real surprised at what they end up doing. Does anybody believe once an offender, always an offender when it comes to sexual crimes? I'm just curious. I mean, especially if they don't have the correct counseling and tools to, I don't know, medication to help them think right. I don't know. What kind of medication do you take? It makes you think about not having SA. I'm not a doctor or a psychologist. I know I've been to some out briefings when some pedos got out of prison, and many of them reoffend little offenses. And one of the guys said, I can't stop thinking about what I want to do to children. I had to leave the room on that one because can they really not control what they're doing? I don't know. I definitely think there should be more coming out when the trial comes. And the judge and Children's Services needs to be more involved, finish their investigation, make the rulings, and get shit set straight. But that's my opinion. I'd say to the Children's Services, pick that case up, finish it, get it done. And with the brother being a minor, yeah. I mean, according to Tiffany's previous attorney, he was 18. Listen, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think the kid is young. Very young. California raising that. You got to keep her too. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Can a SA, someone that's a SA abuser, can they be cured? I don't know. But would you want your kids running around with them? Do you just let your kids stay the night at anybody's house? I believe that Flower Daisies too. I mean, it said that the Kansas case started because of a case out of state. That's what it said on it. So, tells me reoffending. They will reoffend even with medication. Sad but true. That's what I find to believe too, Daisies. Flower Daisies. I don't know. This case don't make sense, but it's making more sense, not that it's right. Again, I think Veronica loved her children very much. I think she was doing good in her life. And I believe Jillian was doing her job and had no clue that any of this was going on. or what was going to go down. She just knew that there had to be supervised visitation, and she was on a list that she could be there for supervised visitation. Did she know why there was supervised visitation? Probably not. Probably not. Her job would have been there to make sure that nothing happened to the kids and the conversations was good. But Veronica's attorney talked too. I found that too. Listen to it.
Custody battle turned deadly. We learned just a couple of hours ago that the two bodies recovered in Oklahoma over the weekend were in fact those of missing Kansas moms, Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly. Allegedly, they were murdered after a car trip to pick up Veronica's children from their paternal grandmother in Oklahoma. Now, the paternal grandmother and her boyfriend.
Nana, I agree. I find it very troublesome myself. I had to walk away. And I don't know. I might have to walk away from this case. I don't know. I really don't know yet. But I find a lot of problems with this case. It seems people don't like me finding the problems. Crazy.
And another couple were all arrested. The question becomes why? Well, how could a custody battle turn deadly? Joining us exclusively is Oklahoma attorney Garrett Oates, who had recently been taken on to represent Veronica Butler in the custody battle. Now, in court documents, we learned that Veronica had accused Tiffany Adams, this grandmother, of essentially kidnapping her kids. A lot of you keep asking me, what is this habeas corpus? That is Latin. You have the body. It is a federal demand to produce somebody, in this case, the children. Counsel, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Chris. I'm glad to be here with you, but I'm also deeply saddened, and no one, especially in this position, this is not where I want to be for sure. So, but thank you for having me.
Understood. And I know how rare this is, a situation where you lose a client, let alone under these circumstances. But how have you been able to make sense of the motivation, even if it's madness in this? Do you think it was about this group, the misfits, or do you think this is about a grandmother with no more sense of morality who was willing to kill to keep the kids?
You know, Chris, I can't speculate about the group. I was unaware of anything to do with this sovereign citizen group that you guys have been reporting on prior to law enforcement talking about that. Certainly there's been some information about them in the probable cause affidavits that have been released. But beyond that, I had absolutely no knowledge, had never heard of the group before law enforcement releasing that information. So to say that, you know, I have any information as to whether or not that group was the motivation, I don't know that. What I do know is that Veronica was a lovely lady. She was what you want in a client. Absolutely. She was organized, diligent. She made my job a heck of a lot easier. She brought me 4 expanda files of information the first time I met her. That was all stickied and tallied, ready to go for me. She was extremely respectful. Just like I say, everything you want in a client and a person. She absolutely loved her children, and that was the goal, was absolutely to get her more time and then to be on the path to regain custody. That was our plan for sure.
Did Veronica have any kind of sense of what she was up against in this dispute?
Again, with regards to the group, I can't speculate as to that. And so, and Veronica had never mentioned the group to me either. So I'm at least of the belief
just the
that
grandmother.
Just the grandmother. Certainly, when Veronica first met with me, there was the normal custody battle type information being exchanged where both parties, or from Veronica's perspective, right? I mean, both parties are really warring with each other, especially in a custody battle that had been going on for years, right? But beyond that, what really struck me was the information that you guys had reported on. Tiffany Adams' own son, Wrangler Rickman, had put some posts on social media about threats that his own mother had made against him. That was what really raised my eyebrows, firstly, in speaking with Veronica, and what I thought kind of made this a little bit different than a normal custody case. And certainly, like I say, raised my eyebrows, gave me some pretty serious cause for concern. I think Veronica knew that obviously it was a very extremely serious situation, but to know that somebody is capable of doing something and then that they would do something, I mean, are two very different things.
Her sense or your sense about what was driving the grandmother's interest in the custody?
Oh, well, I mean, I certainly had many conversations with Veronica, both in person and I corresponded with her almost every day, which is not, I wouldn't say that's per usual for all of my custody cases at all. But it was really a keep me posted on every single thing because it was an ongoing dilemma. Like I say, I mean, it was going on for years. There were issues. I know you guys have reported on the filing that I filed as recent as March 20th, which I think really encapsulated the snapshot of how the situation was going in the custody battle as recent as March 20th, which was 10 days before the 30th when, they were first declared missing. And so, it's, I think I think I share the same sentiment that Veronica did with regards to the controversy, the struggle that was going on in this case. And I was only retained in September of last year, so it's not as if I was in the case from the very beginning. But from my review of the court file, I mean, this was a very contentious matter from the very get-go. I mean, there were numerous hearings. The filing takes quite a while to scroll through the bottom to the bottom,
Right.
And so it was a very serious matter, very contentious matter from the very beginning.
Well, to believe the authorities' suspicions at this point, it was serious enough that the grandmother was willing to kill the mother of the kids that she supposedly loves so much. So we'll see what sense we can make of it. And counsel, anything we can do to help you along the way or what you believe needs to be addressed, we're a call away. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find
newsnationnow.com. Had you guys seen them reports from Cuomo with the attorneys? Or was you like me, you saw them, but you really didn't pay attention to them? You just figured that it was a custody battle. Custody battle brings out a lot of ugliness, especially if there's kids involved. I don't know. I don't think I paid a lot of attention to these attorneys and what the words that they used until after the aunt sent out all that paperwork. Now I'm going back and looking at it. Like, I'm in no way trying to go after the family. But we definitely want the truth of everything. And if it's true, if these allegations were sustained, like it says, what's protecting people around them? I don't know. That's for the courts to decide. That's not for Rock to decide. I'm not going to be the one that decides it. But when you're digging into a case and you come across stuff that's not good, do you stick it to the side and just don't tell everybody about it? Is that good reporting? Does that make a good creator? If you pick and choose what you tell your audience? Or do you tell them the truth? Listen, I've seen there's a RC scammer, which I assume is Rock Chalk a scammer. I'm not a scammer. Rock Chalk, you're lying. There's a lot being said. And is it? I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, is this even? I mean, it's in the courts. It's going to be up to the courts to decide. They'll figure it out. And I do believe that they will figure it out. Now, as far as the case, will it still be in Guyman? I don't know. Do I still believe that all law enforcement should wear body cameras? Absolutely, 1,000%. My mind hasn't changed on that. But do I want to be like a bad person in the YouTube world? No, that's not true. I really don't. But I'm not going to pick and choose what I report. I know what I read. And I know I didn't share the names or the case numbers of it. So, for people to be all up in arms with on the family side, I didn't. I mean, that's one reason I moved to YouTube. Is because it seems like YouTube, the creators actually tell the truth. They don't just say what Ellie wants them to say, and what other people want them to say. Do not sit back and, because I think a lot of this case is, how could it go this far? Like, how could it went this far? And if you're not hearing the truth of everything, like, it should have never went this far. 1,000%. Nobody should have lost their life. I do believe Veronica loved her children more than anything. But was there possibly information hidden from Veronica that she didn't know? I don't know. Listen, I wouldn't want to believe something about a family member that my family members would be capable of doing essay to the extent of what I read. It's disgusting. I wouldn't want to believe it. You love your family. You don't want to believe that stuff. So it's interesting, to say the least. I just hope the truths come out. I know so many of you, very many of you, this case caught you because it could have been your mom, could have been your sister, could have been your aunt. Do you want to know everything about the case, or do you just want to know what the media tells you? Do you want to know absolutely all pieces to the puzzle that puts the puzzle together? Because I don't have all the pieces to the puzzle. I can tell you that right now. And nobody will have all the pieces to the puzzle until court happens. That's for sure. But rest assured, I don't talk to Wrangler about this case. So, other than he said that somebody was trying to do a story with his kids, and he absolutely disagreed with it. And that's the only thing that we've talked about. And I agree with him. Somebody might have temporary custody, but I do believe he's going to regain full custody, and they are still his kids. And he should be able to have a say in what they're exposed to. And he should be able to have a say in what they're exposed to right now. And where they're at and what's going on. And who's around them. I mean, he hasn't stopped being their dad. He's still their dad. And I believe when he gets out of this rehab, he'll get his kids back. And I think the young man, he is young. He's going to have his plate full, but I think he'll do the right thing. I do believe he loves his kids. It's misleading. Yeah, well, sometimes people want you to believe one thing, because this is a horrible crime. No doubt about it. This is absolutely horrible. There's no excuses for what's going on. But there's also no excuses for Children's Services to not continue their action and the judge taking action of their findings. So it'll be interesting because I don't work for Children's Department of Children's Services. But I sure couldn't find any more information on it. I don't see the names on any essay list. So hopefully this brings awareness to the state of Kansas that they need to figure it out. Because they're the ones that did that report, this last report, and there was 2 of them. And they damn sure said sustained. So if they said sustained, what are they doing about it? Other than just writing on the paperwork sustained? That would be my question. It just makes no sense. But definitely, I'm not going to be out here trying to dog parents. And, I mean, if telling the truth is dogging them, and damn, I don't know what to say. So I'm not trying to dog them, but I would believe you. I'd believe the community would want to know the truth. And nothing but the truth, so help you God. You want to know every bit of it. Okay, with that said, yes, Elbow, we can start looking into this guy. Connecticut man's wives die suspiciously in the same house 20 years apart. That's Nola's friend. Nola is one of our subscribers. And it's from 4 years ago. But for some reason, this true crime news, they don't like to let me share. They do not like to let me share it. So I'm going to have to maybe make my own video and take some clips out. I'll be the first to tell you I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to have to do a lot of reading. I'm going to have to do a lot of reading and figure out how to do actual videos so that we can get this information out. Nola left, but her friend was murdered. And there actually seems to be 2. Connecticut man, wives die suspiciously in the same house 20 years later. She says he still lives in that house, and it was one of her friends. Robert Kolowski finds himself under intense scrutiny after finding his wife murdered. And believe it or not, it's not the first person he's discovered dead in their home. Seems pretty crazy. I'm going to have to listen to this. Again, Elbow, we can go over this if you want to. But I gotta go read it myself, and then we can make our own video. Absolutely, Elbow. I agree. Because, listen, again, I never intended on being a YouTube creator. I had to do a lot of YouTube help to even figure out StreamYard. So to even get to where I'm at now, it's taken a lot. I don't know how to do videos. I might share something from TikTok, but as far as sitting down and doing videos, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not really that person. I'm more of a boots on the ground, digging type of person. All this technology is, I got a lot of learning to do if I'm going to do that. And do I want to do that? I don't know. I don't know. Do I want people looking bad on me? No, I don't. Do I want to upset the family? No. Do I want the truth out there? Absolutely, 1,000%. So it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because there's some stuff in this that are the truth. So we'll just keep an eye out on it, keep going with it, and go from there. With that said, again, 2 hours and 47 minutes. I'm going to try to start making these an hour long. Thank you, Elbow. I'm definitely not a pro. That's for sure. No pro here. But I definitely can investigate. I can definitely dig up some stuff. There's a lot of other stuff I've dug up too. I just haven't released it yet. It seems that some can only handle a little bit at a time, so we'll just go with it from there. It is what it is. I got pretty thick skin. I can handle quite a bit. Especially if I feel like I'm telling the truth, and I believe I am. So I believe what I'm coming across and then I report to you is to be the truth. So with that said, is there feelings hurt out there? Probably are. But I thought the end goal is to get justice for Veronica and Jillian, and that's still the goal. And I do believe that'll happen. But will it happen in Texas County? I don't know. There's a lot of stories there too, and a lot of them seem to be connected. Then I got a message that the assistant DA there in Texas County, the assistant DA, his parents owned the bail bonds there in Guyman, the only bail bonds. I don't know how true that is. I haven't got to dig yet, but that's what they said. The assistant DA parents owns the only bail bonds there in Guyman. I would think that to be kind of a conflict of interest, if you ask me. We had something go down like that in Wichita a long time ago. Several people got fired from the jail, but they were getting kickbacks from. Now, this is not Texas County. This was here in Sedgwick County. But several of the jail guards, they started getting really nice houses, in-ground pools, hot tubs, and a big investigation went down, and it was huge. And it was found that the people that worked for the jail was getting big kickbacks from the bail bondsmen. I got several friends that's bail bondsmen, so when they go and bond you out, that money's theirs. You don't get it back. So you've pretty much blown your money when you pay a bail bondsman. And then they're only responsible that you make it up to your very first court date. So, the people, have you ever had to get a bail bondsman? Do you know how that works? Oops. I mean, depending on the case, you got to put 10% down. There is some cases that you have to. There is some cases that it's cash. But some people put their houses up, their cars up. Have you ever had to obtain a bail bondsman? I know my friends that's bail bondsman's here. It's pretty much easy money for them. So, and there's a lot of people that do bail bonds and make good money about it. Let's see here. I'm going to share something real quick. I don't know if this is going to make a difference or not. So we're going to stop the screen. We're going to present the screen. We'll get that out of here. Have you ever had to hire a bail bondsman?
In this financial environment that we find ourselves in, crime rates are going up a lot. And as a result, many people are finding themselves becoming part of a growing industry, becoming a bail bondsman. Just exactly how does a bail bondsman make money? Basically, bail bondsmen, once they post a performance bond and get appropriately licensed by the state authorities, they can present themselves to the law enforcement associations and authorities in their given town. And when people require a bail bond because they've been arrested for an infraction, these individuals can post bond, and they receive cash from the accused individual or their family to be sprung out from jail or custody. The way this works is that there is a premium paid by the family to the bail bondsman, and assumably there is no flight risk where the individual will skip bail, as it's known. If they do, then the bail bondsman, of course, has the risk that is based on the underlying bond. And then there's another emerging growth industry called a bounty hunter that will go off and find the individual that has violated bail. This is how a bail bondsman makes money, and this is financial advisor Patrick Monroe.
I just know that they get that 10% and it's theirs to keep. They just got to make sure you make it to court the first time.
Welcome to Cash Money Bondsman. I'm Sharonda Adams.
And I'm Elizabeth Large.
And we're your instructors. Now, today we're going to talk about what it takes to become a bail bond agent and what we do on a daily basis. When I started out, I actually managed a call center for 6 years, and I found that there wasn't any room for growth, and I wanted to have an extra income. So I looked up the insurance industry and found that the surety bail bond business was a part of that same industry.
And I worked at the clerk of courts, which is where the majority of your bonds will be posted.
Right. So listen up, guys. This is for those who want to pursue a career in criminal justice. You're a high school student, college student, ex-military, the retired. You're seeking part-time or full-time work. Or you're the person that says, no one will hire me. Or maybe you're the person that everyone calls when someone goes to jail. Or you want to have extra income in your pocket or a trade to fall back on. If you fall into any of those categories, then this is for you.
So let's get started. In order to maintain a good client base, you have to remember you will be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you must love people. People like...
Yeah, well, that's not helping me
any. 5 things you need to know about bail bonds.
Number 1, if you're charged with a crime and awaiting trial, bail is the amount of money you can pay to secure your freedom. Number 2, under Texas law, the judge is required to set the bond at an amount that gives a reasonable assurance that you'll show up to court, keep the community safe, and commit no new crimes. Number 3, if you pay the bond amount to the court, you'll get that money back at the end of the case, even if you're convicted. Number 4, if you can't afford the full bail bond amount, for a fee, usually about 10%, a bail bond company will post your bond for you. Number 5, unfortunately, if you can't even afford the amount that the bail bond company is charging you to post your bond for you, you will remain in jail until the case is either dismissed, you plead guilty, or you go to trial. For more information, click the description below.
5 things you need to know about bail bonds.
Anyway, interesting. A lot to go over. Again, I don't know when I'll be live again. Got a lot going on. You take care too, Scout. I am going to cancel Wednesdays because that is Rick's birthday. And then we also got to make a trip back to Nebraska. So we got a lot going on. Got this trip to Oklahoma City, then Arkansas. Just got a lot going on at the moment. It's not because people's talking trash. They can talk all the trash they want. The goal is always going to be justice for Veronica and Jillian. And I'd like to help CW the best I can. Make sure she ends up with college education if we can help her. So with that said, and I hope Wrangler has a healthy baby in the morning, his wife, and best of luck to them. And as for you guys, I'll see you on the flip side. Be kind to each other. Treat people the way you want to be treated. With that said, I'll see you soon. I got to take care of personal business and get things done. Oh, happy birthday, Elbow, the 7th. Ew. I bet Rick wishes he was your age. But yeah. And then we got the fair coming up. Like, there's a lot on my plate coming up. So I'll come on and visit and give you guys a chance to talk. But other than that, I'm really not going to be going live much. I do miss you guys, but I do not miss the drama that keeps happening. So they can keep all that drama. We're here for the truth and nothing but the truth. And I will still be digging behind the scenes, believe me. Even though I have not been live, I've been pulling all kinds of court records and going over them with a fine-tooth comb. So just because I'm not live does not mean that I'm not working still on this case, because I'm definitely working on it 24/7. Much love to everyone. You have a great evening. Happy Labor Day. I hope you have a great Tuesday. It's going to be a 4-day work week for a lot of people. So a short week for you. Summer is going to be coming to an end. God, that sucks, don't it? Time for rock to travel south. That's what I say. Anyway, much love. Have a great evening.